Jacob Rees-Mogg, Conservative MP for North East Somerset, Chair of the European Research Group, joins me now. Which was it for you, Mr Rees-Mogg? Good morning.
Oh, good morning. I think it was an excellent speech, and it reiterated the key points of Brexit, of what the government's policy is, and how Brexit can be made a success.
In what way? What did you take from yesterday that shows how it can be made a success?
Well, it's a positive global vision. It's looking to trading with the rest of the world. It's looking to have friendly relations with Europe. We're leaving the European Union, not Europe, and that it's looking to the economic opportunity that we will have outside the European Union.
Remainers would say, but we could trade with the rest of the world now. Why do we need to Brexit to do that?
Well, there's something wrong about that we can't have trade deals with the rest of the world unless they're agreed by the European Union. And we have to have the common external tariff, and that means we put high tariffs on goods coming from the rest of the world, and that makes it harder for us to trade with them, and much harder for us to get good trade deals with them.
When you hear that Jean-Claude Juncker has reacted in the way that he has, suggesting that he's not interested in a federal or a super-state Europe, how do you react?
Well, I think you look at the evidence, you look at the progression of the treaties, and you look at the preamble to the treaties saying that the aim is to create an ever closer union, and you look at what was said by Jacques Delors in the 1980s, that they looked to have the Commission as the executive, the Council of Ministers as the Senate, and the European Parliament as the House of Commons equivalent. That's what they've been trying to do for decades. So suddenly to say that there's no aim to have a federal Europe, I think is surprising, particularly when President Macron of France has been emphasizing his desire to reignite the process of ever closer union.
To those who would say yesterday, Mr Rees-Mogg, it was strong on sentiment and spirit, but short or light on detail, how would you react?
Well, the detail will be in the final points of the negotiations and in trade deals that we agree with other nations. That the detail is also subject to cabinet collective responsibility, and that hasn't yet been agreed. So I think it is important to remind people of the big vision of why we're leaving and what the aim is once we've left. The detail will come.
As and when we get that detail, as and when we get a deal, do we have another vote on it?
Well, we've had a vote to leave the European Union, so what would the next vote be on? That at the general election, the decision of the referendum was endorsed by the two main parties' manifestos. So I don't see that there would be the grounds for another referendum unless a party wanted to reverse the decision to leave, in which case it should say so in its next election manifesto and then promise a referendum.
So no vote on the deal outright on its own?
Well, all you'd be voting on then is to say whether we leave the European Union with or without a deal. Right. And I'm not sure that that's a useful way of having a vote.
And earlier on in this show, Lord Adonis, formerly Andrew Adonis, likened it to buying a house. He said you might want to buy the house, but when you get the survey in, you can see there are all sorts of problems with the roof or the gutter or the foundations, and you might review your position. That's why he says the Britons should have a vote on the actual deal.
But what he wants is a vote on whether you remain in the European Union. It's not really a vote on the deal. That's an aim to reverse the decision made in June 2016. And he's quite clear about this. I debated with him at the Cambridge Union only last week, and he has long held the view that leaving the European Union is a mistake, and he wants the country to change its mind. But we've had that vote. He lost that vote. This is now the consequences of the vote. It's nothing like buying a house. It's a much more important decision.
And lastly, what do you think, for those who the Foreign Secretary was trying to reach out to yesterday, how do you imagine it would have gone down with them?
Well, I think there are various categories of people and how they responded to the vote in 2016. There are some who voted Remain who have accepted the result and want us to get on with it, and there's polling information on this. There are some who remain very troubled by the result, and I think we do want to try to reunite the country, but this will always be difficult. Nonetheless, it's right for Boris to begin that process and to be generous in his sentiments.
Always good speaking with you, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Thank you, Conservative MP for North East Somerset, Chairman of the European Research Group.